Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where every old coin tells a story and some could be worth a small fortune sitting right in your pocket. Today, we're diving into the top 6 most valuable Canadian 1-cent coins that have shocked collectors and left jaws on the floor. These tiny copper treasures may look ordinary, but trust me, their hidden value will blow your mind. So before you toss that old penny jar aside, hit that subscribe button because one of these coins could change the way you see pocket change forever. First up, we've got a coin that carries the quiet dignity of post-war Canada, the 1946 Canadian 1-cent coin. At first glance, it might just look like an old penny, a piece of copper with a bit of wear and age, but behind this small coin lies a story of survival, scarcity, and shocking collector value that'll make you look twice at every old cent you come across. This 1946 cent features the classic maple leaf design by G.E.E. Kruger Gray's 2 elegant leaves on a single twig symbolizing strength and growth after the tough years of World War II. The reverse side, with its bold 1 cent and Canada inscription, feels simple, almost humble. But the obverse tells another story. The portrait of King George VI, father of Queen Elizabeth II, captured in a calm yet commanding pose. It's a reminder of the era when Canada was still finding its identity after the war, rebuilding industries and reintroducing normal life. Now here's where it gets interesting and valuable. 1946 cents were struck in large numbers, over 56 million of them, but most were used, spent, and forgotten. The majority got worn down in circulation, their crisp details fading away over time. Finding one today in this kind of preserved condition with clear lettering, even color tone, and minimal scratches is a collector's dream. The example you're seeing right now has an even copper patina, a soft brown that shows its age proudly, not damaged but gracefully aged. But value isn't just about age, it's about condition and rarity in high grades. A regular circulated 1946 penny might only fetch around 25 cents to a few dollars. But here's where things take a shocking turn. In uncirculated condition with original mint luster and no wear on the high points of the maple leaves or King George's cheek, this coin can skyrocket in value. Some mint state examples have sold for over $2,500 in certified auctions. And if you ever come across a proof-like strike, a rare coin struck with mirror-like surfaces intended for collectors, you're looking at a potential $10,000 to $15,000 piece. Now let's talk about the true treasure hunter's dream, errors. A few rare 1946 Canadian cents have surfaced with off-center strikes, die cracks, and planche flaws, those quirky imperfections that collectors go crazy for. A double die obverse, where King George's portrait or the lettering appears slightly doubled, could shoot the value up to $25,000 or even more if verified by grading services like PCGS or NGC. Imagine holding what looks like an ordinary penny only to discover it's worth more than a brand new car. That's the thrill of coin collecting right there, so the next time you come across a 1946 Canadian cent in your collection, don't rush past it. Look closer. Check the edges, the shine, and those maple leaves, because hidden in that small copper coin could be a little piece of history and possibly a fortune in disguise. Next up, we're moving to another Canadian cent that takes rarity to an entirely new level. But before we continue this treasure hunt, make sure you've subscribed. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Next up, we've got a coin that might look ordinary to most eyes, but collectors know this one hides a secret. The 1945 Canada 1 cent. Struck in the final year of World War II, this humble copper coin has seen history unfold and, in rare cases, turned into a collector's jackpot. The coin you're seeing here shows its age with grace. The surface has that warm, even copper tone that only decades of careful storage can create. Lightwear can be seen across the high points, a gentle reminder that it's survived almost 80 years without losing its dignity. That's impressive. And while the majority of 1945 cents were spent into oblivion, a few rare survivors, especially those struck sharply and stored properly, are now worth jaw-dropping sums. And you see, 1945 wasn't just another minting year. It was the end of an era. Canada's mint was transitioning back to peacetime production after years of war-related metal shortages. Quality control was stretched thin, and that's where the magic happened. Some coins were struck on imperfect planches, others slightly off-center, and a few show remarkable die cracks, giving them that distinctive character collectors love. Those small minting quirks are what turn a penny into a prized treasure. Now, here's the part that makes people lean in. In circulated condition, like one you might dig out of an old jar, these coins are typically worth around $1 to $5, but Move up into uncirculated territory, and the story changes fast. A mint state example with original luster, no handling marks, and sharp details can command anywhere between $2,000 and $10,000, and depending on grade and toning. And it doesn't stop there. There are a few jaw-dropping auction results that have sent shockwaves through the coin community. A high-end proof-like strike from this same year once sold for more than $40,000, and it's not even the most incredible part. Error coins from 1945, especially double-die obverse examples or coins struck with a clip planche, have crossed the $300,000 mark in private sales. Yes, you heard that right. A single cent worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's the kind of find that makes collectors' hearts race and keeps them searching through rolls, bags, and boxes of old pennies. Imagine holding one of these in your hand, a piece that's lived through the final days of the Second World War, tucked away for decades, waiting for someone to realize its hidden fortune. That's the thrill of it. You're not just holding copper, you're holding a story, a rare survivor that slipped through history untouched. So if you ever come across a 1945 Canadian cent, take a moment to really look at it. Examine the edges, check for doubling in the lettering, look for unusual mint marks or cracks in the surface. What looks like a simple penny could actually be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Moving on, the next coin in this list is even more surprising, rarer, scarcer, and with a value that'll make you rethink every coin you've ever overlooked. But before we jump into it, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss the next coin. It might just be the most valuable cent you've never heard of. Next up, we're stepping forward a few decades to a coin that might not seem old enough to be valuable, but this one will completely change that belief. The 1974 Canada 1 cent. Most people wouldn't give it a second glance. It's newer, more common, and was minted in the millions. But in the world of coin collecting, appearances can be deceiving. And this particular year has produced some of the most shocking surprises in Canadian penny history. Now, take a close look at this coin. Despite its age, the surface still shows a strong copper tone with honest wear from circulation. You can tell it's been handled, pocketed, maybe even rattled around in a drawer for decades. Yet the details are still visible. That's important because even circulated coins from 1974 can carry clues that lead to something extraordinary. The 1974 cent came during a transitional time. The Royal Canadian Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions and adjusting die alignments. That's exactly when mistakes happen, and collectors live for those mistakes. Some 1974 cents show doubled dates, partial repunching of the 4, or even die cracks along the rim that give them that unique, one-of-a-kind appearance. And then there are the extremely rare off-metal errors, coins accidentally struck on foreign planches intended for other denominations. These are the holy grail finds, and when one appears, the value goes through the roof. In regular circulated condition, a 1974 penny might only fetch 10 to 25 cents, but a bright red, uncirculated example, mint state, untouched, glowing with that fiery original luster, can bring anywhere from $100 to $600 depending on its grade. That's already impressive for something most people overlook. But here's where things get unbelievable. A confirmed double die 1974 cent showing clear doubling in the date and lettering once sold for over $28,000 at auction. And that's just the start. A few years back, a collector stumbled upon what's now known as the 1974 off-metal strike, a penny accidentally struck on a nickel planche. That single coin, authenticated and graded, fetched an eye-popping $325,000 at yes for 1 cent. It became one of the most talked about sales in a Canadian coin history. The rarity wasn't in its design, it was in the mistake itself. The odds of such a misstrike making it out of the mint were almost zero, but one did, and it changed everything. Collectors also look for the so-called filled 4 error, where part of the number 4 in the date is clogged with metal, creating a thick, almost melted look. Even that minor variation can multiply a coin's worth several times over. So, if you've ever handled a 1974 Canadian penny and thought it looked a little different, hold on to it. Check for doubling, look for off-color metal, and if the weight feels off, you might be holding a small piece of minting history that could pay for a luxury car, or even more. The lesson here is simple. Never underestimate modern-looking coins. The 1974 cent proves that even pennies from the 1970s can hide secrets worth hundreds of thousands. And as we move to the next coin, the values and the surprises are only going to climb higher. So stay tuned because what's coming next will make these numbers look small. Moving on, let's turn our attention to a coin that quietly sits between two eras, the 1962 Canada 1 cent. It may not look as ancient as the wartime pennies or as modern as the 1970s issues, but this one has its own shocking stories that'll make any collector lean forward. This particular coin you're seeing has survived in impressive condition. The copper still glows softly with just enough wear to show its journey through time. The details remain sharp, especially around the edges and lettering, which tells us it was probably stored away long before it got heavily circulated. And that's a big deal, because condition plays the starring role in its value story. Now, 1962 was a busy year for the Royal Canadian Mint. Over 280 million 1 cent coins were struck that year, but only a handful became legends. Why? Because this was the year when a handful of die alignment errors, doubled dies and die clashes, made it past inspection. Some 1962 cents show a fascinating misalignment where the reverse side is slightly rotated, just a few degrees off from the obverse, and collectors go absolutely wild for it. Even a minor rotation can boost its value from a couple of dollars to hundreds, but here's where it gets jaw-dropping. One extremely rare 1962 penny struck with a deep die crack running across the maple leaf was discovered in near mint condition. It sold for nearly $48,000 at auction, and that was just the beginning. Another coin struck on a planche intended for a U.S. cent made headlines when it was authenticated and sold for an unbelievable $310,000, all because of that once-in-a-lifetime minting error. In everyday circulation, a 1962 penny might fetch a few cents, but a proof-like example with brilliant surfaces, that original red gleam and perfect strike can easily bring $1,000 to $2,500. A high-grade certified mint state coin, those can jump beyond $8,000 if the toning is attractive and the surfaces are untouched. The market for these coins is fueled by nostalgia, rarity, and the thrill of discovering something extraordinary hiding in plain sight. Collectors are also drawn to the early portrait of a young Queen Elizabeth II on this coin. The youthful profile gives it charm, but it's the small differences in minting, die polishing marks, faint doubling, or those famous ghosting effects of the Queen's image faintly visible through the reverse that truly drive the excitement. Each small imperfection tells a story about how the mint operated in that era, and every unique mark adds to the coin's individuality. So if you ever come across a 1962 Canadian cent that looks just a little unusual, maybe off-center, oddly shiny, or with slightly different toning, don't brush it off. That could be the kind of find that turns a penny into a payday. The deeper you go into Canadian coin history, the more surprises you'll uncover. And what's coming next in this list will take those surprises to a whole new level. Make sure you're still watching, because the next coin might just redefine what you think a penny can be worth. Next up, we're going back to one of the most fascinating years in Canadian coin history at 1943. This 1943 Canada 1 cent may look simple, but what makes it remarkable is the era it came from. Canada was deep in World War II, and every metal counted. Production materials were being conserved, and that's exactly why this little coin holds so much mystery. And in some cases, staggering value. Take a close look at this coin. The surface tells you it's been through time. The soft brown copper with faint rainbow toning gives it real character. It's circulated but not abused. You can still read the date clearly, which matters a lot to collectors. But here's where the magic of 1943 comes in. While Canada continued minting copper cents during the war, some were struck on steel planches used for the U.S. wartime cents, and those rare off-metal errors are worth a small fortune today. For regular 1943 copper cents, values in circulated condition usually hover between $1 and $10, but uncirculated examples, those that never entered pockets or cash drawers, can easily sell for $1,000 to $5,000 depending on grade and color, especially those with the original red copper tone intact. Now, that's already exciting, but what truly drives collectors wild are the rare misstrikes and off-metal errors. Imagine this, a 1943 Canadian penny accidentally struck on a brass planche intended for 5-cent coins. Only a few of these have ever been confirmed, and one pristine example sold for over what? $312,000. Another jaw-dropping case involved a 1943 cent struck on a foreign bronze planchet. It wasn't just an oddity, and it was a minting miracle, and that coin fetched nearly $400,000 in a private collector's deal. These are the kinds of discoveries that turn ordinary people into overnight legends in the coin world. Even among standard 1943 issues, there are micro variations that push their value higher. Some coins show subtle doubling on the date, while others display die breaks that appear like tiny raised lines near the rim. These imperfections, invisible to the casual observer, can multiply a coin's worth several times over. There's even a known die clash variety where the faint outline of King George VI's portrait appears on the reverse. An accidental mirror impression that's become one of the most sought-after errors of this decade. So yes, while most people see a simple wartime penny, collectors see a potential goldmine of history, scarcity, and striking errors. The coin you're looking at now, even with its gentle wears, could be the starting point for a deeper search into that legendary off-metal series. If you ever come across a 1943 Canadian cent, take your time, weigh it, inspect it under good lighting, and look for any signs of unusual color or surface texture, because that's how some of the world's most valuable small coins were discovered. Not in a display case, but in an old box, a drawer, or a forgotten tin. And just wait until you see the next coin on this list. Its story goes even deeper, with a twist no one saw coming. So stay tuned, because the values from here only go up. And finally, we've reached the last coin in this lineup, the 1964 Canada 1 cent. At first glance, it looks like just another copper penny, but this coin hides one of the most famous and valuable minting errors in Canadian numismatic history. It's a coin that changed how collectors look at small details forever. The one you're seeing here shows honest wear, with its natural copper tone softening over time. The edges are still crisp enough to reveal that it's been cared for, and that's important because 1964 wasn't just any year for Canadian cents. It was a year that produced both ordinary coins and a handful of extraordinary ones that have since become legendary. Most 1964 cents are common and worth only a few cents in circulated condition. But a select few from this year feature a striking anomaly that stunned collectors, the 1964 extra waterline variety. This was caused by a die gouge that created what looks like an extra line beneath the queen's shoulder on the obverse. To the untrained eye, it's nothing more than a scratch. But to experts, that line transformed a 1 cent coin into one of the most sought-after Canadian varieties ever minted. Now, here's where the excitement hits. Regular 1,964 cents in uncirculated condition might sell for around $2 to $5, but one with that extra waterline error in mint state condition can easily jump to $5,000, $10,000 or even more, depending on how clear that line appears. But the story doesn't stop there. A high-grade example graded MS66 red, fully lustrous and nearly flawless, sold for over $40,000. And that record set off a collecting frenzy that still continues to this day. But that's not the only shocker from 1964. A few misstruck coins were discovered on foreign planchets, and one of them, a penny struck on a U.S. dime planchet, sold for an incredible $385,000. It weighed less, had an unusual color tone, and the moment it was authenticated, it became one of the most valuable Canadian cents ever found. These extreme cases remind us that even small differences can change everything. The smallest die break, an off-center strike, or a faint doubling in the date could push a coin's value from pocket change to life-changing money. And that's exactly why collectors still obsess over 1964. It's not about how old the coin is. It's about the hidden details that most people never notice. So if you ever come across a 1964 Canadian penny, take a second look. Use a magnifying glass, tilt it under a light, and inspect the area under the queen's shoulder. That tiny line might just make your heart skip a beat, because that's how a forgotten penny turns into a collector's dream. And that wraps up our journey through 6 of Canada's most valuable 1 cent coins. Each one proof that history, rarity, and a bit of luck can turn even the smallest coin into a story worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So check your collections, your drawers, and your old jars. You never know. Your next great discovery might be sitting right there, waiting to surprise you.